Anna closed the apartment door with a sense of relief, mixed with the exhaustion that had built up after yet another long and draining day. Her daily routine was starting to weigh on her, as if each new task added another piece to the burden she carried on her shoulders. Days at the office dragged on, with tight deadlines and increasingly high expectations. She barely had the energy for basic tasks when she finally got home. Max, as always, waited for her by the door, wagging his tail with unshakable joy. He was her only companion in that small apartment. Since she had adopted him from a shelter months ago, the dog had quickly become the center of her domestic life, filling a void she didn't even know existed. His presence was a silent relief from moments of loneliness, a loyal comfort after long hours of emotional isolation at work and in everyday life. After dropping her keys on the kitchen table, Anna sighed deeply and petted Max, feeling the warmth of his body against her cold hand. His barking and boundless energy were always a contrast to her own exhaustion, as if he were trying to transmit some vitality to her. At that moment, though, she was too tired to notice anything beyond her desire to rest. Max kept following her around the house, his soft footsteps echoing on the wooden floor, but she merely assumed it was another one of his usual signs of affection. While preparing a simple snack, Max wandered around the kitchen, his tail wagging side to side. He seemed more restless than usual, pacing nervously back and forth. Anna, however, was too focused on finishing quickly and sinking into the couch to pay attention to his behavior. Her mind was in a state of numbness, focused on shutting off from the world, not bothering with the subtle signs around her. After settling into the living room with the TV on just to create some background noise, she noticed Max still wandering around the house. His low, almost muffled bark made her frown. It wasn't like him to behave this way. Normally, he would settle next to her, content just to be there. But tonight, there was something different in the way he moved back and forth, tail flicking, body on alert. Anna briefly thought about investigating what was making him uneasy, but fatigue won over curiosity. Perhaps it was just one of those days when Max, for some unknown reason, was more agitated. At least that's what she thought. She sank deeper into the couch, her muscles relaxing against the cushions, not realizing that something more was unfolding around her. Max continued to pace between the kitchen and the living room, his eyes fixed on the stove. The night seemed longer, and although Anna didn't notice, the small apartment was beginning to trap certain signs in the air that only the sharp instincts of a dog could catch. Yet to her, everything seemed normal. Anna finally succumbed to exhaustion, expecting just another quiet night at home, unaware that while she rested, Max was still trying to warn her that something far more serious was about to happen. The apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of the TV in the background. Anna, now settled on the couch, was trying to completely disconnect from the stresses of the day. However, something persisted in breaking that sense of relaxation she sought. Max. He was still restless, his behavior straying from the norm. It wasn't typical for him to be so agitated at night, especially after she arrived home and settled in. It was as if there was an energy in his body that he couldn't contain. The Labrador paced back and forth, sometimes heading towards the kitchen, other times circling around Anna, glancing repeatedly at the stove. He would stop, stare at it for a few seconds, and then start walking again. What had begun as low, occasional barking now started to intensify, as if he were trying to communicate to get her attention. Anna, still exhausted and wrapped in her own thoughts, didn't pay much attention. She gave Max a quick glance, observing him for a few seconds. His restlessness was starting to irritate her, but her fatigue made her ignore the signs. Maybe he heard something in the hallway, she thought. It was common for him to get a little anxious when he heard the neighbor's footsteps. But tonight, the barking wasn't a reaction to external noises. There was something more, something his instincts had picked up long before any human perception. Max kept pacing, the frantic rhythm of his paws softly echoing on the floor. He barked again, louder this time, drawing Anna's attention. She sighed, annoyed by the dog's insistence, and tried to calm him with soft words. "Sure, it's okay, Max," she said half-heartedly, her eyes still fixed on the TV. But Max didn't stop. He moved closer to the kitchen again, looking back as if expecting her to follow. Anna shifted on the couch, bothered by his persistence, but still didn't get up. By now, Max was clearly agitated. He came closer again, this time touching her hand with his nose, trying to pull her, something he rarely did. This unusual gesture finally made her lift her head, a mix of irritation and curiosity taking over. "What's up, Max?" she muttered, slowly rising to see what was happening. Max ran back to the kitchen and stopped in front of the stove, turning to look at her expectantly. Anna, frowning, followed him with her gaze and, with a sigh, got up to check what was going on. The mild fatigue that had consumed her body was now mixed with a sense of unease. Max's behavior, which initially seemed like mere nervousness, began to stir a strange feeling within Anna. Something was wrong, and Max was trying to warn her, even though she didn't know what yet. She reached the kitchen and looked around, searching for anything out of place. Everything seemed normal. The dishes in the drying rack, the clean countertop, the stove turned off, or so she thought. But Max was still there, standing, staring intently at the stove. The dog seemed to focus on something she couldn't see. She stepped closer, feeling a discomfort rising in her chest, as if the simple act of ignoring Max's behavior until now had been a mistake. Max remained in place, his eyes fixed on the stove. Anna leaned in slightly, the exhaustion no longer the only thing on her mind. Something inside her began to stir, a small flicker of worry that, until then, she had tried to suppress with the weight of daily life. Max barked again, low and insistent, and that's when she noticed. There was a faint smell, almost imperceptible, lingering in the air. A strange odor that had gone unnoticed by her tired mind. She took a deep breath, and suddenly, everything seemed to fall into place. Max hadn't been just agitated. He had been trying to warn her about something serious, something that was now starting to reveal itself, albeit subtly. The smell was gas, faint but present, something she never would have noticed if not for the dog's persistence. Suddenly, the quiet night turned into a scene of silent tension. The fatigue was replaced by a sense of alertness. Max knew. He had known all along. For a moment, Anna stood still, trying to process what was happening. The faint smell of gas became more noticeable as her mind adjusted to the new reality. Max was still standing by her side, staring at the stove as if he knew exactly what was at stake. She realized that the dog's restlessness and persistent barking weren't just random behaviors. There was something serious going on. Anna carefully approached the stove, trying to stay calm as her head spun with the possibility of a gas leak. She was aware that such situations could be dangerous. Initially, she lightly touched the stove's knobs, checking if any had been accidentally left open. Everything seemed to be in the right position, but the smell, though subtle, lingered in the air. A slight wave of panic began to rise within her. Max approached her again, nudging her leg with his nose as if to confirm that she had finally understood what was happening. Anna glanced at him briefly, feeling a mix of gratitude and anxiety. He had been right from the beginning, and she hadn't paid enough attention. His constant presence had kept her from neglecting something that could have turned catastrophic. She rushed to the kitchen windows and opened them, allowing the cool night air to flow in and start clearing out the smell. The soft breeze that entered provided temporary relief, but the panic still lingered. Her hands shook slightly as she tried to steady her breathing. Max, by her side, remained alert, as if monitoring her every move. There was a certain comfort in knowing that he had been vigilant all along, while she had struggled to contain her growing fear of what could have happened. The gas had been leaking in small amounts, which explained why she hadn't noticed it before. Anna realized it could have been much worse if the dog hadn't alerted her. She recalled stories of similar accidents and the danger that a simple spark could pose at that moment. The tension tightened in her chest as she fought the rising urge to panic. With the window open, the smell began to dissipate, but the urgency of the situation was still clear. Anna approached the stove again, carefully inspecting to see if there was anything else she could do. That's when she noticed, upon closer inspection, that one of the gas valves had a small defect. It wasn't something she could have noticed on an ordinary night. The gas had been leaking almost imperceptibly, but it was there, slowly filling the apartment with an invisible danger. Max, still by her side, remained in a state of alert, as if he were ready to act if something else happened. Anna, still controlling her breathing, quickly shut off the gas supply and made sure there was no longer any immediate risk. The threat was contained, but the impact of the discovery still reverberated in her chest. She leaned against the kitchen counter for a moment, feeling the weight of what could have been. Her thoughts were fragmented. If Max hadn't insisted, if she had ignored the signs for a little longer, the possibilities were too frightening to fully comprehend at that moment. Looking at the dog, Anna felt an overwhelming wave of gratitude that she could barely express. He had saved their lives in a way she never could have anticipated. Gradually, Anna's breathing returned to normal. The smell had almost entirely disappeared, and the apartment, though still immersed in the quiet of the night, now felt safer. Max, for his part, began to relax. He sensed that the crisis was being resolved and, although still vigilant, his agitation subsided. Anna knelt beside him, running her hand through his soft fur, feeling the familiar comfort of his presence. Everything was under control again, but the reality of what had almost happened wouldn't be forgotten so easily. She stood up slowly, looking at Max with a new perspective. The dog she had adopted months ago, mainly to fill her loneliness, had shown a level of intelligence and sensitivity she had never truly appreciated. Until that night, he had just been her companion, someone to share moments of affection and routine. Now, he had revealed himself as a silent protector, someone who, in some way, had always been paying attention to dangers she couldn't even perceive. At the end of the chapter, Anna realized that the night, which was supposed to be just another ordinary evening, had turned into a moment of revelation. Max was much more than she had imagined, and the trust he had shown in protecting her was something she would never forget. The tension still hung in the air, even with the windows open and the gas smell slowly dissipating. What could have been a disaster was now drifting away from immediate reality, but Anna remained on high alert. That brief moment when she realized the danger stirred a series of thoughts that kept her more agitated than she wanted to admit. The night, which should have been calm, had turned into an unexpected lesson about awareness and Max's sharp instincts. She moved cautiously around the kitchen, making sure the leak was completely under control. Though the gas smell was fading, the sense of danger didn't leave her mind. Anna checked the stove again, the knobs and the connections, wanting to be absolutely sure there was no more threat. Max watched her closely, still alert, but with a more relaxed posture. He knew the emergency was being handled, but he stayed close to her. Anna could still feel the adrenaline pumping through her body. Her hands trembled slightly, and her thoughts raced between what had just happened and what could have occurred. A simple mistake, a distraction, the outcome could have been completely different. Max, however, had sensed it long before she did. The idea that he had saved their lives in such a quiet yet persistent way left her with a mix of admiration and guilt. She had ignored the signs for so long, thinking his behavior was just meaningless restlessness. The cool night air flowed through the open window, helping to clear the kitchen, and, little by little, the gas smell vanished completely.
Before we continue with this exciting story, make sure you are already subscribed to the channel and leave a like on this video to always stay up to date with new content.
Anna knew she needed to stay in control. She quickly called a technician to check the gas system in the morning. Though the leak was contained for now, she didn't want to take any more chances. Max, by her side, seemed to understand the importance of every step she took. He followed her with a calm, that only a dog could offer after moments of tension. Anna took a few steps out of the kitchen, feeling the night's cool air on her face and the safety of knowing the immediate danger had passed. However, the image of what could have happened still lingered in her mind. She leaned against the wall for a moment, breathing deeply, and felt a tear escape. The thought that an explosion or fire could have taken not only her life, but Max's as well was too much to bear. She crouched beside him, running her hand through his soft fur. Max was calm now, but still watchful. His eyes, usually sweet and friendly, held a silent intelligence. Anna realized that without him, she might never have noticed the leak until it was too late. The overwhelming sense of gratitude was almost too much to handle. For a brief moment, she felt as though all the worries about work, the daily pressures, and the fatigue that constantly accompanied her had disappeared, replaced by the simple realization that she was alive, and all because of him. The apartment, now quiet, felt less oppressive than before. Max, in his calm presence, had turned a potential tragedy into a powerful reminder of how their relationship went beyond mere companionship or comfort. He was a vigilant guardian, someone who, without hesitation, had stepped into the role of protector that night. Anna stood up and looked out the window, feeling the cool night outside. The fear of what could have happened began to fade, but the gratitude remained strong. Max had saved not just the apartment, but their lives as well. And that was what mattered most. When she finally allowed herself to relax on the couch, with Max lying beside her, the relief mingled with gratitude. The silence that had once felt stifling now brought a sense of peace. The dog she had seen as just a loving companion had proven to be much more than that. Max hadn't just been by her side during her lonely moments, but had demonstrated a loyalty and awareness that had saved their lives. Little by little, the physical and emotional exhaustion gave way to a new kind of calm. Anna knew that night would be etched in her memory, not for the fear or tension, but for the essential role Max had played. The simple act of barking insistently, something she had so often ignored, now represented a heroic gesture. Anna looked at him once more, feeling a mix of respect and love she had never experienced before. Max was no longer just her dog. He was her protector. The apartment finally seemed calm again. The fresh air circulated through the kitchen and living room, completely clearing out any lingering traces of gas. The adrenaline that had consumed Anna during the most tense moments was now beginning to dissolve, leaving behind a deep exhaustion. She sat on the floor next to Max, feeling his soft fur under her hands. The silence that followed was different from the one she was used to. It wasn't empty, but full of meaning. Max remained by her side, lying quietly as if all the tension from the night had never existed. Anna looked at him with new eyes. The dog she had adopted months ago, mainly to ward off loneliness, had shown a level of intelligence and sensitivity she had never truly grasped. Until that night, he had just been her companion, someone to share moments of affection and routine with. Now, he had revealed himself to be a silent protector, someone she could trust completely. As her fingers ran through Max's fur, a wave of gratitude washed over Anna. It was hard for her to fully understand the depth of what had happened. Max had insisted, unwaveringly, on alerting her to something she couldn't see or feel. The fact that he had persisted, even when she ignored him, spoke volumes about the bond they had formed. It wasn't just a casual connection. It was something deeper, a bond built on mutual trust. Anna remembered when she first saw him at the shelter, sitting in a corner, watching with calm yet attentive eyes. She had felt an immediate connection, something that drove her to adopt him without hesitation. And now, looking at him that night, she realized that the quiet, gentle dog hid within him a loyalty and courage she had never imagined. In a way, he had saved her life more than once. First by filling the void of loneliness, and now by protecting her from an unseen danger. The guilt for having ignored Max's signals still hung over her. Many times, she had told him to calm down, thinking it was just meaningless agitation. Now, the realization that he had been right from the beginning weighed on her mind. Anna knew she couldn't turn back time, but from that moment on, she promised herself she would never underestimate his instincts again. If Max was trying to warn her about something, there was always a reason for concern. The moments they spent together that night were filled with a new kind of intimacy. Anna felt more connected to the dog than ever before, as if what had happened had strengthened the bond between them in an indestructible way. They weren't just companions sharing a space. They were partners, united by something that went beyond words. Max, lying beside her, seemed to feel that change too. He didn't need to do anything more. Just be there, offering the kind of comfort only a dog could provide after moments of tension. The night moved slowly, and the tension finally began to dissipate completely. Anna stood up from the floor and walked to the still open window, letting the soft breeze enter. The relief of knowing the worst had passed brought with it a sense of security she hadn't felt in a long time. Looking out into the darkness, she realized how easy it was to neglect the little things until they became big problems. Max, however, hadn't neglected anything. His sharp eyes and insistent barking had saved not only the apartment, but her life as well. Anna returned to the couch, with Max by her side, his head resting on her lap. He didn't need words to express what he felt, and neither did she. The comfortable silence between them spoke more than any dialogue could. Anna realized there was a deep emotional connection, something that went beyond the simple understanding of the relationship between human and animal. It was trust, respect, and unconditional love, all mixed into one. In that moment, Anna wasn't thinking about anything other than gratitude. Max had done the impossible. Not only had he physically protected her, but he had also helped her rediscover the importance of paying attention to the small things in life. He had become her guardian, not because he wanted something in return, but because that was his natural instinct. Protect and love. Their relationship was now stronger than ever, and Anna knew nothing would change that. The world outside remained the same, full of noise and commotion, but inside that small apartment, everything had changed. What once seemed like a monotonous routine now held hidden meanings. Max was no longer just a dog to Anna. He was part of her life, part of her heart. And from that night on, the bond between them became unbreakable. The first rays of morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, gently illuminating the apartment. The previous night had left a deep mark on Anna, but at the same time, it brought a sense of renewal. The alarm went off softly, but this time she didn't immediately get up as she usually did, rushing to start another hectic workday. Instead, she stayed in bed for a few moments with Max beside her, enjoying the silence and comfort of that peaceful moment. Something was different in the way she viewed the day ahead. The experience of the previous night wasn't just about avoiding danger. It was a wake-up call to aspects of her life that she had been neglecting for a long time. Max, with his quiet and loyal presence, had awakened this new awareness in her. She realized that for so long she had been rushing from one commitment to another, only focused on work, and had disconnected from what really mattered. That morning, with the sun softly bathing the apartment, everything seemed clearer. The dog was still lying beside her, his body warmed by her presence. He didn't know it, but he had completely transformed the way Anna saw the world around her. Her eyes had opened to the small signs she used to ignore. Max, with his persistence and attention the night before, had taught her that life doesn't always scream its warnings. Sometimes, it's the small details that save the day. She realized that this was a valuable lesson, not just for that specific night, but for her life as a whole. She got up slowly, letting Max rest a little longer, and walked to the kitchen. The gas smell had completely disappeared, but the memory was still fresh in her mind. The technician would arrive soon to check the gas system, but now she was more aware of how important it was to pay attention to everything, no matter how small. The repairs would come, But the most important change had already happened inside her. While waiting for the technician, Anna began to prepare a simple breakfast. For the first time in a long while, she did things calmly. The rhythm of the morning, which was usually marked by haste, now felt serene. Max approached, sitting by her feet, watching her closely. She smiled at him, feeling the gratitude overflow once more. That morning marked the beginning of a new phase in her life. Anna had always known Max was important, but now she understood how much he truly meant. Their relationship wasn't just casual companionship, but a deep partnership based on trust and instinct. Silently, she promised herself never to ignore his signals again, whether they came from Max or from life itself. With breakfast ready, she sat at the table, taking her time to appreciate the meal, something she rarely did. Max, lying at her feet, was calm and content. The connection between them was palpable. The apartment, which had once seemed like just a place to rest after long days, now felt like a true home. Max had brought more than just companionship. He had brought a new perspective on what it means to live with awareness, care, and love. After breakfast, the technician arrived, and after a quick inspection, confirmed that there had been a small defect in the stove, causing the gas leak. He assured Anna that the problem would be fixed quickly, giving her even more peace of mind. The situation was under control, but the memory of that night would stay with her for a long time. While the technician did his work, Anna took Max for a walk in the park. The day was sunny, and the light morning breeze was refreshing. As they walked together through the peaceful paths, she realized how she had been neglecting these simple moments too. She had always thought of the walk as just another task on her schedule, but now, with Max by her side, she saw the value in those precious minutes. Max walked calmly beside her, his tail swaying lightly in the wind. The park was serene, and Anna felt at peace, reflecting on how that night of tension had made her realize things she might never have noticed otherwise. Max wasn't just a dog. He was her guide, her anchor in the midst of the world's chaos. When they returned home, the technician had finished the job, and Anna knew everything was now safe. But more than the fixed stove, she felt that something inside her had also been repaired. The feeling of constantly running, without stopping to breathe and appreciate what she had around her, had been replaced by a new way of seeing life. Sitting again on the couch, with Max beside her, Anna realized that the daily pressures of work and responsibilities still existed, but they were no longer all that mattered. She was committed to dedicating more time to what truly made her feel alive, and Max, of course, was part of that list. The dog, unknowingly, had brought to light something she didn't even know she needed: a new way of living. He hadn't just saved her life that night, but also her perspective on the future. The apartment was quiet once again, but this time it was a silence full of peace and meaning. The world outside continued, with its demands and challenges, but Anna knew that with Max by her side, there would always be a moment of calm to find meaning in the simple things. The bond between them, now unbreakable, was proof that sometimes the greatest heroes are the ones who stay quietly by our side, warning us about what truly matters.
Thanks for watching until the end. What did you think of today's story? Leave your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Until next time.